Do you want to see an example of what not to do if you have an anxious child? I'm going to be breaking down a clip from season 5, episode 3 of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's a show on Amazon Prime. I absolutely adore it. And in it, there is a phenomenal clip about what to not do if you have an anxious child. I'm Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and I specialize in working with children and adults that have anxiety, have experienced trauma, and we are going to not only talk about the clip, but also talk about some tips if you do have a child that has anxiety. So just for a little backstory, Mr. Wiseman, he's the father of Ethan, and that's Mrs. Maisel's son. And they've been struggling with getting Ethan to sleep in his own bed. And the therapist recommended gradually getting him into his bed. And in a previous scene, the dad had gotten upset about it blocking the bathroom and had moved him, and they had this big argument about it. He's definitely not on board with what the therapist has recommended. So let's see what he does.
They're seen here, and not just playing. They're learning necessary defense throughout the first
Ethan,
of their lives.
time for bed.
I sleep in spot number 3 tonight.
How about sleeping in your bed tonight?
My therapist says I'm not ready yet.
Cubs stay with their mother until they're nearly 2 years old. After that,
Okay, now, Ethan, look at me, and not at the bear on TV, up here. Hello. Now, Ethan,
So now he's about to have a heart-to-heart with him. And it doesn't start off horribly wrong, but then it gets very interesting at the end.
must discuss the rationale behind your sleeping in the hallway, or the very lack of it, actually. I understand that for some reason you are afraid of your bed. Well, you should know that fear is very natural. It's there to help you survive. It tells you to run when something large with teeth is going to eat you, or to duck when a rock has been thrown at your head. And there are so many things in this life to be legitimately afraid of.
This is where things start to kind of go off the rails, and you will see what I mean.
Have you heard of Park Slope?
No?
Recently, a United Airlines airplane and a Trans World airplane collided in midair, just flew right into each other. And the wreckage rained down onto a Park Slope intersection.
And a lot of people do this. In their effort to help somebody manage their anxiety, they want to talk about worst case scenarios in a way that's meant to make them feel safer and more secure. But really what they're doing is they're making that anxiety and worry get even bigger. We are doing exactly what anxiety and worry want, because it wants to be in control. So I have another video that I will link at the end, and I'll link in the description. But anxiety wants certainty and control. Lynn Lyons put out a book called Anxiety Audit, and that one was for adults. We are talking about helping kids with anxiety today.
Section, killing every passenger on board and 6 people on the ground. 6 people just walking down the street, going to the market or to school or the movies, got instantly crushed by falling pieces of flaming metal and various arms and legs and torsos from previously intact bodies. That's pretty scary, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is. There are wars, floods, sometimes tigers escape from the zoo. Lightning can strike you, even on a sunny day.
This is not going to help somebody feel safer. And he has such good intentions. He has really, really good intentions, but this is not helping at all. It is, in fact, making things very worse.
You could eat bad clams and be evacuating from every orifice in your body for a week.
But I hate clams.
Hating clams won't keep you safe, Ethan. You could fall down a well that you never knew was there, go flying through a windshield when your daddy stops too fast. You could accidentally spell Carol Channing's name wrong.
So that was an example from his own life, and he was beating himself up. So something that I tell my child all the time, and I work with my clients on, is that everybody makes mistakes. And anxiety is often the strive for perfection and being perfect. He works for a newspaper company, and he had never had to write a correction. And he made a small mistake, put two N's instead of one, and it's not a big deal. And he wanted to write some like 1,500 word apology, and his newspaper was like, just give us 15 words, like we'll let you do it. So he has a bunch of anxiety, and the way that he's talking about this is going to make things worse.
And instantly become a man who must be apologized for. In print. Yes. Yes, I think you're beginning to understand what I'm telling you. It's time you learn to live with fear, to accept it's there, and there is not enough tape in the world to keep you safe. And though your mommy and your daddy and possibly even your therapist mean well by making you think that sleeping on the floor is a mark of being a big, brave boy, your grandpa is here to tell you death comes for all of us, even the brave. Now, would you like me to read you a bedtime story?
Oh my, that was so much. And I've worked with people that do very similar things with their kids, and that is catastrophizing. That is taking a situation. So he has a fear of the bed. And in order to help him get over his fear of the bed, like we're now talking about all of these things, and the words are correct, but the way he's going about it is wrong. And so this is where I want to give you some more helpful ways that you can manage anxiety, because of course, later on when mom gets home, where does she find him? In her bed, because like he wasn't even on the floor. So he was gradually making his way to his bed. And now this has set him back. Like he'll probably end up in her bed for a while. And he then wants mom to protect him from his fears. And so in the book, Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents by Lynn Lyons and Reed Wilson, they talk about 7 ways to stop the worry cycle. And one of the first things is to accept that anxiety is a normal part of life. And parents cannot eliminate a child's anxiety. That anxiety just is, and we don't have to be afraid of it. We don't have to avoid it. There are ways that we can teach children, and the adults have to model it for themselves. We can teach them to manage their anxiety appropriately. The other thing is that parents can unintentionally reinforce their child's anxiety by trying to protect them from things they fear. And instead, we should encourage children to face their fears and develop coping strategies. And that's not, if a child is afraid of the water, immediately throwing them into the deep end. Like we can do this gradually, but it's also not saying, okay, you're afraid of the water, you never ever have to go in any body of water ever, and accommodating that fear. Because I like to teach clients to externalize their fear, and that is a part of the process that's described in the book, because we often feel like the anxiety is us, that I don't like water, when really it's the worry that doesn't like the water. It's not the individual person, and that anxiety and worry can keep us from doing things that we might enjoy. They also talk about the concept of anxiety being a bully. That is a voice in the child's head telling them to avoid things that make them anxious. And instead, parents can help their children, help them stand up to that bully by teaching the child how to talk back to it. So if a child comes up and it says, I'm afraid of my bed, that's where I can say, what's something you can say back? That sounds like your worry. Sometimes you give it a fun name to externalize it even further, and it can have its own persona. And if the parent and child are doing it together, because that's why the book is called Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents. The researchers talked about the fact that they've never met an anxious child without an anxious parent. And that often anxious parents try to keep their kids from experiencing their anxiety altogether. The book also emphasizes the importance of parents modeling healthy coping skills for their kids as well. Because if I'm avoiding my own anxiety, if I'm not doing things that make me uncomfortable, because often anxiety is about being comfortable. What I mean by comfortable, I mean that if being around crowds makes me uncomfortable, and maybe there's a safe way for me to go towards that fear, because then it can also give the kids the courage to do the same. I always love to share resources, and this is a free resource. It's playingwithanxiety.com. And this was a book developed by Lynn Lyons and Reed Wilson. And here it's a companion book to The Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents. And you can download the ebook for free. You can also order a copy through Amazon, but this one is the free one. And it has those 7 steps right here that we're going to expect to worry. We're going to take action on the plan that we develop. We're going to talk to our worry. We're going to be unsure and uncomfortable on purpose. I'm going to know what I want. I'm going to breathe and use my other coping skills. And then I'm going to celebrate my success. That's an important part of this puzzle. And the book just breaks it down in a really great way. If you like this video and this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I really enjoy doing videos on different things from the media, and then I also do other educational videos as well. If there are things that you would like for me to cover, please let me know in the comments. You can also let me know over on Instagram as well. I am at Dr. Patrice Berry across all platforms. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.